Russian propaganda resources, experts and other talking heads, are now convincing their faithful or casual consumers of information fast food, that the offensive of the Ukrainian defense forces is taking place in an area that is outside the main defense line of the Russian army. And this is true, but there is a nuance. That zone where the Ukrainians are now conducting combat reconnaissance is an operational zone. It is designed to slow down the advance of the main enemy forces and, if possible, to stop them completely. It is there where the main mine and landmine obstacles and ambush of the Russian side are concentrated. So Russian propagandists tell the truth, this is not the main line of defense. But the Ukrainians have not even started the offensive yet either, and are conducting quite different activities. In turn, what happens to the enemy forces? And the occupation forces that were in reserve, mainly on the second and third lines, are already being drawn down to the supply line. In particular, to stop the Ukrainians from advancing down the Mokry Yaly River to Staromlinivka, the Russian command sent the 127th Motor Rifle Division from the comfortable trenches. The 58th Combined Arms Army also did not feel very comfortable in the Zaporizhzhia expanses, and urgently needed an additional resource in the form of the 49th Combined Arms Army. From the Kherson region began to pull forces into the triangle Tokmak-Vasilivka-Melitopol, to strengthen the third line. Why is this happening? Were the reserves thrown to reinforce the second line, or all gone lying bone in the support line? What about the left bank then? After the dam explosion, the large body of water is already receding. I have been saying for quite a long time that the Russian troops in the whole combat zone have the most problematic grouping in Kherson and Zaporizhzhia regions. In detail, from month to month, I pointed to their main vulnerabilities, namely, the lack of full staff equipment units, and also the absence of the possibility of filling all the lines of defense with a proportionally sufficient number of defenders. That is, not only are they critically short of equipment, for the number of men they have, but also critically short of men to fill the lines of defense completely with them. And now we are seeing in all its glory the manifestation of all these facts. While the Ukrainian defense forces have not yet started anything in earnest and are using units of limited functionality, the Russian forces are already being forced to put their reserves into action from the second and third lines. Of course, Russian propagandists will not tell their consumers of informational fast food this. They will tell that as a result of the failed offensive the Ukrainian army lost more than 50% of its personnel, all Leopard 2 tanks were destroyed, Kyiv panics, Biden has dementia, Scholz and Macron are already calling Putin in hysterics, and the Chinese and Bulgarians as usual admired the actions of the Russian army. Well, let them tell it. But taking into account the movements going on in the deep and not so deep in the rear of the temporarily occupied territories of southern Ukraine, we can conclude that in fact the Russian army is not doing very well. I would use the term pre-stroke state, but some people take me somewhat literally, not always understanding the allegories, so I will leave the option the Russian army is not doing very well. We are on the verge of great events, and while Ukraine's defense forces are operating at the level of reconnaissance troops, the enemy is feverishly pulling in the remnants of Marines who have never seen the sea and Arctic assault aircraft, which will not be fated to be the dinner of polar bears.